Okay, so this is a sample lesson that you could use something like this in your mini lesson for your writing mini lesson. And I've given you an example of how to do the T-chart as well as how to do the mini case study. So the first thing that I have here is a sample of the student's writing, and this is I think it's a fourth grader. I'm not really sure, but it looks like about fourth grade quality. And you can see it says, at my first ice skating class, I was excited. I was ready. I got on the ice. It was my first time, so I had bars. At the end of class, I was very good, so I did not need bars. That was only basic 1. Now I am on basic 3, gliding, jumping, and spinning with my class and my instructor. The end. So this is not everything that I could get out of this piece of writing, but just to show you what it is that I'm looking for. Under strengths, I said ideas. You can tell from the writing in sample 1 that this child is very interested in the topic she has written about. She also stays on topic, writing only about ice skating, and that's one of the things that we look for in ideas. And yet over here, I've said ideas as a weakness. So you may find that they do some things well and some things not so well. So there were many places where she did not give enough supporting details. For example, what did she mean by using bars? As a ice skater myself, I think I know, but that might not be readily apparent to someone who's not familiar with the sport. And then what is basic 1? What is basic 2? Actually, that should say 3. Let me just go ahead and change that. And then I said see sample 1. So if I was the instructor reading this, I could go back and see she's written basic 1, basic 3, the use of bars. So I'm referring to things directly in the sample. So for this particular case, I only have 1 sample, but you'll have at least 2. So word choice is a strength. Some words that I thought she used well: excited, gliding, jumping, and spinning, again from sample 1. If it wasn't clear where those things were, I might be more specific. So I might say, see last sentence. That would give the reader a little bit more information. And then sentence structure, student begins most of her sentences with I. And again, see sample 1. So I've come up with a mini lesson that I'm going to do, and this mini lesson is using a variety of sentence structures, that should be an S there, with personal narratives. And so this story that the child has written is written in the first person, so it would be considered a personal narrative about an event in her life. And I have this book, Potter G., the author. Here's the title. Here's the APA format. And what I say is I will read this book aloud to the students in a small group. Throughout the book, I will stop and show them how this author has used I to tell her story, while at the same time using other words to start her sentences. For example, the first page starts with a sentence that starts, when I was 7. I will then give students 3 examples of story starters that all start with I and have them revise these sentences using other words. So working with the students, we'll talk about I went to the circus when I was 3 years old. And this one directly relates to the sentence up above, when I was 7, so that the students could look at that and say, when I was 3 years old, I went to the circus. The second one, I like to eat chocolate chip cookies all day long. So again, you could start with the phrase at the end, or you could revise the sentence to say something like, chocolate chip cookies are my favorite things to eat. You could start with, for the whole day, I like to eat chocolate chip cookies. It would be an awkward sentence to say all day long, I like to eat chocolate chip cookies. But you can talk about different ways and maybe even have students get into pairs and try to write different sentences that say basically the same thing. The third one is, I said goodbye to Alice and Andy with a sad heart. So you could just revise that sentence by putting the phrase at the beginning like we've done with some of the others. Or again, you could say something like, it made my heart sad to say goodbye to Alice and Andy. My heart was sad when I had to say goodbye to Alice and Andy. Those are, again, some different ways helping the children to see what it is that they can do there. So once we've done these as a small group, I will ask the students to look at their own personal narratives and revise their sentences so that they don't all begin with I. So for this particular student, I have a piece of writing in mind, and it may be that I have other students that have something very similar. And then just on the last page here I wanted to show you is I took a picture of the book and just added that here. That's not necessary for you to do, but if you want to, you can give me that additional piece of information. So again, this would just be one of the 3 lessons that you need to do for your mini lessons. You notice I haven't yet said anything about conventions, although her conventions are quite good. She has capital letters. She has periods. She uses a comma at the end of class, comma. I was very good, so I did not need bars. And that would be a sentence, if I was working with the student, that I would point out, look at this, you started this sentence with at the end of class. So you did not start that with the word I. But what's interesting to me is that instead of continuing with I right here, I wouldn't mark this down anywhere, but it's just something to note. She started back over here, so it's kind of that habit that she has of starting everything with I. So even when it's in the middle of the sentence, she's moved her I back over here. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what it is that I want you to do with the writing mini case study.